Well, hello, everyone. We are back to what was formerly known as the artist of, no, formerly Prince, Soul What podcast, audio and visual. And we are back with you now as SoulTopia TV. We've got our producer, Matt Stoker, with us, and very happy to have him back.
Happy to be back. Happy to be back.
And, of course, my husband, Roger Welch, or
What's up? What's up?
the one who, what do you do at SoulTopia?
I took the trash out.
Yeah. And so he got a question about that one time. And then, of course, we have a wonderful guest tonight, Christiana Gaudet. What we're looking to do with this new platform is, Roger, you want to share just a second, and then I will let people, I'll introduce Christiana.
Well, I mean, we wanted something that's a little bit more kind of what SoulTopia is all about, and it is about our community. And so we want to spend time through the month of each week of the month, maybe interviewing people like the wonderful Christiana, but also maybe sharing some products, some new knowledge, and just having fun even sometimes, and doing some readings and just having fun with everybody.
All right. So we did invite Christiana on for our very first show back, and I am so grateful that she accepted. Christiana Gaudet has been in the business of tarot, a tarot professional, and other metaphysical endeavors since 1993. She lives in Palm City, Florida. She's the author of 2 books, Fortune Stellar, and I'm going to let her tell, Tarot Tour Guide, and both have had one print already gone through and already on second or third prints, very successful books. And she also is the owner of StarCon, an incredibly good all-hybrid conference, in a tarot conference and divination, but a lot of tarot and different modalities in Florida, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Christiana has won with the World Divination Association. She has quite the impressive record or showing of what her peers think of her. In 2021, she won world's best, let me say how it works. She was nominated and then voted on by all of her peers, which are a lot, as the world's best tarot, and I think that one was either reader or teacher. She can tell you 2021, best tarot reader in 2022, best divination teacher in 2022, and best divination, if I wrote this down right, teacher in 2023. She can correct me if I'm wrong on that. And we were fortunate this year. We won last year. And then this year we were fortunate to win Best Spiritual Shop, too. We want to give a shout out to Tony Savoy, who heads up the World Divination Association and all those great people. We won that this year, and I won for Best Medium 2023. And it was something, Best Overall Diviner, I don't know what it was, in 2021 or 2022. But thank you, Christiana. It's such an impressive resume that you have, and so many things that you've done for not only your career but for everybody in this profession. And I know that you have elevated it to a much higher standard because of an excellence, because of your involvement. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much. I am so honored to be here with you, and especially because it's your first show back. So I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you.
Right. So first of all, we will talk about StarCon tonight. We do want to tell anyone listening, and it may take a few of y'all a while to get caught up where we are and that we're back on, and that's all good. I'm going to have Matt tell everybody a little bit where is the best way for everyone to find everyone or find us.
So we are live right now. I mean, if you're watching this, hopefully, I would assume you have found us by now, but we are live on SoulTopia's Facebook page as well as SoulTopia's YouTube page. And as the plan going forward, I believe, is to be live on those 2 platforms. So look for us there. Follow if you haven't followed. If you've stumbled across this or you're watching this later, make sure you follow. You should get a notification that when we go live on either of those platforms, and both of those we'll be looking at throughout the evening for comments and questions and things like that. So again, SoulTopia Facebook page and the SoulTopia YouTube page. Live on both of those.
And on the YouTube page, you probably need to hit subscribe, I think, in order
Yeah.
to chat. So that's something I'll get on certain shows and I'm like, I have something to say and I can't say it. And it's like, oh, I didn't subscribe. So that's an important thing.
I'm not sure if it, but you should hit subscribe anyway, even if because
Exactly.
you want to be alerted whenever we go live.
Yeah.
And there should be a little bell that you might have to click to get the alerts whenever we actually do go live. Otherwise, you may not be notified on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, exactly. So we all wanted Christiana on tonight for when we said we were going to go back. Roger and I immediately said we wanted to have Christiana on. We
Yeah.
didn't ask anybody else. It was our first ask, and we were so honored that she agreed. And it is because what I said earlier, because of your contribution, Christiana, to tarot, to the what I call the professional community, people who take our craft very seriously. And of course, I'm not judging who does or doesn't, but we did want to get into a little discussion, and we'll get StarCon in here too, but a little discussion about how to have staying power in the tarot or divination field, but also to anyone who doesn't want to necessarily be a professional reader, some things to look for in readers that would and that's why they have staying power. So they kind of tie together, but we can do it from, if you're listening as somebody who thinks about doing this as a living, or somebody who you work at a bank and you want to learn how about tarot, or you want to get a reading, what are some things to look for? So Christiana, with that said, could you just tell us a little bit, if I left anything out of your background, because I know you just have such a wealth of knowledge about, just broadly, what you think it takes to be a professional tarot reader?
Sure, sure. And it's such a great question, because when you talk to tarot students, and we are all tarot students, right? And we have been tarot students. If you've taught a tarot class, you've taken a tarot class, why do people come to tarot? Because the first time you do that reading for yourself, for a friend, and truth is there, it is undeniably true, and it blows your mind, right? And so then you take your cards and you read for a couple other people. Let me show you what I can do. This is so cool. Let me read for myself. And then people think, oh, well, now I know how to read tarot. I can become a professional reader. And whether it was in the 90s, the millennial decade, the teen decade, or now, I have seen so many new tarot enthusiasts crash and burn because they do it too quickly. So what does it take to have staying power? Don't go pro quickly. Wait. I went pro in 1993. I started reading in the 1980s, many, many, many years earlier. And I read for so many people. I had done hundreds of readings before I set foot in my first psychic fair, which was, by the way, my very first gig was working for someone's psychic fair. And I was so nervous, oh my gosh. So study for a long time before you go pro. That's the first thing, because otherwise you will have no lasting power. I think the other thing is you really have to be good at it. A lot of people love tarot, and people will say to me, well, how do I become good at tarot? Or what do I do to be good at tarot? And what I will say is, don't worry about being good at tarot. Worry about how tarot is good for you. And because tarot has something for everyone. Not everyone should be a professional reader, and not everyone should be a full-time professional reader. That's the other thing. And in fact, I thank you so much for having my first book up there, Fortune Stellar, which is a book about being a professional reader. But in that book, I focus a lot on being a reader part-time, which I never was. I've always been full-time. But I know very, very few people who have really wanted to and been able to be a full-time reader for decades, raising family. I was the breadwinner for a family of 4 with tarot. IT John, my husband, who is my business partner, stayed home with the kids. He was the house husband while I was out, doing the thing. I used to do, 4, 5, 6 tarot parties a week, every week. That was the thing. So that's the other piece, is flexibility. Like when I first started, it was radio. I was the resident psychic of 14 different radio stations, and that's how I built my business. Now, I haven't been on a radio station in forever, but it's not necessary, right? I'm on YouTube Live. Good enough. I'm on TikTok. Good enough. You have to be flexible, and you have to change as things change.
Right. We've learned a lot about pivoting, right, lately, right,
We have.
Roger? Yes, we are learning that, Christiana. We have been through a week. You want to touch on that? I'm jumping around, but Roger and I, Christiana, I think I spoke with you briefly that in the past 2 days, we closed down a store.
I did not know that.
So-
Oh, my goodness.
So about a month ago, Lizzie, you haven't met her. She's kind of short, tiny, tiny.
Our daughter?
Yeah, she's kind of tiny. But this
darling.
guy came in up at our Frisco location. He had on the City of Frisco shirt, which is not unusual. Actually, several of them come by and buy stuff. And he's like, "Y'all do those tarot readings up here? Tarot readings up here?" And she's like, "Well, not today. We don't have a reader, but this Sunday's our psychic fair, so you could actually get a reading there." And he goes, "Ha ha!" and points his finger in her face. Little old bitty her. "Gotcha."
She's like 18, I think, yeah.
19. Yeah.
19.
And she's like, "Gotcha." Those are illegal to do in Frisco. It's like, what? No, never have been. And there's no ordinance anywhere. And here's a citation for your sign being illegally permitted too, which also was later found untrue too.
Well, that took about a day for
Yeah,
us to
that took a
overcome
day to-
that. And of course, I called the city and said, you might want to look up my real legal last name that's on that lease. Because I have practiced law for 37 years. And so it's been very interesting. It's something that we probably were wanting. We want to draw our energy back in because I do love reading. I do love the crux of retail's not my biggest thing. I love reading. And so that's, if they're going to gut that we can't read and cite us $4,000 a day if we have a reader, then, which the law, and I'll just say this quickly, Christiana, I'm sure you've seen things come and go where there's different, do you need a different states? Do you need a
sure,
license?
sure.
I'm sure all the years you've been in it. But this one is particularly interesting because we are, that county is where I raised my kids. In fact, it's right down the street from where I raised my kids. And I just know a lot of people in local government, state government, that through my law firm and through my years as doing that it's just been an interesting journey for us. But we just made the decision, when you're laughing about, we just made the decision, go ahead and, this is not right now my life purpose it might become my life purpose or one of my life purposes, but to take on the battle of fighting for our constitutional rights. But that is what it is. So
It's such a full circle moment for me because when I first became a professional reader, I was in Connecticut. And Connecticut, of course, is well known. It's not a conservative state, but it has heavy blue laws. Can't buy liquor on Sunday. When they kept the package stores open to 9 p.m., it was a huge deal, right? So, that's Connecticut. And when I was coming in and just getting started, a reader, Virginia Randall was her name. She's no longer living. She had been a very popular reader in the area, and she had gotten hit with the blue laws about fortune telling. And she did not have the law degree that you have, but what she had was a lot of chutzpah.
yeah.
And she fought it. She went to Hartford. She lobbied it. She got it all struck down as archaic laws.
Great.
And so as I was coming in, I didn't have to worry about that. But it is true. I ran a traveling psychic fair in the 90s, which was really kind of fun. the cringiest name, like when you have a long career and you look back to your past and you're like, oh God, how did I do that? It was Christiana's Psychic and New Age Fair. Right? And we would go to different hotels and in like Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. And so every town, there'd be different ordinances and different things we would have to deal with. My favorite being in Massachusetts, where I would have to buy a license for each of my readers for the day. It would cost $2. And I would have to sign something saying that I knew fortune telling was illegal. And then I could go and we could tell fortunes.
As long as they got their $2.
They needed their $2, yes.
It'd been a whole lot easier. Here's 50, just leave me alone.
Seriously.
But it actually does tie into the topic of excellence. And I spoke at StarCon last year, and
And the
at
year
your
before,
event.
and the year before.
And one of the things that I spoke about was this very issue. Chiro Marchetti actually told me, a good friend of yours, I believe, and y'all are really close, and he was there, and he said, you need to do that speech again. And I wondered, okay, was that foreshadowing of things to come, future telling of things to come, but the speech about excellence. And so back to how that ties in, I think when you said, don't just take your time, learn your craft, that includes learning what your laws are, learning
Yes.
how to be professional, learning the experience to deal with someone that's sitting across from you, and maybe you can read cards, but all of a sudden they're saying something to you where potentially you need to get them help, or and that happened about 2 weeks ago. So all of that is experience. It's not just learning how to pick up a tarot deck and interpret it. It is having all that goes into excellence, right?
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more about that, Michelle. And yeah, I mean, we're not, okay, you are an attorney, but I'm not. And so people come to us for all kinds of advice. And of course, we have those disclaimers. We're not doctors. We're not attorneys. We're not therapists. But guess what? We are very often the first line of defense
I agree with
for everything. Everything comes to our table first in many, many cases. And so we're the ones to say, hey, you need an attorney, you need a therapist, or whatever it is.
Right.
And so, yeah, we need to be prepared to handle whatever.
Exactly. And that does come with going to conferences like you own, StarCon, and learning from professionals, learning from people who are huge on continuing education. And I believe through the conventions, we have a lot of fun, and they're wonderful, but at the same time, if somebody really wants to perfect their craft and be a professional, you're not required to go, but why wouldn't someone want to elevate their game and learn from other people, right, Roger?
That's exactly right. I mean, you're not going to go to one of these conferences and not learn something, but you're also making some unbelievable connections with people, and you're just networking your business, growing it just by going.
And for people who will help you. I've received readings from Christiana. From you, Christiana, I don't get a lot of readings from, maybe if I'm at an event, I might do that, but I'm very particular who I get my readings from because, yes, you have to be good, but I also want somebody who knows, so I can actually learn from them also. Typically, when I've gotten readings from you, I needed a reading, but you also learn when you go to the conventions and you watch how other people do things. You maybe learn what would work for you, but not someone else. Tell us a little bit, and then we'll get back into how to know how to pick a good reader and how to have staying power. But just since we've mentioned StarCon several times, and we are coming, Christiana, if there's still a space
so excited.
left.
I'm so glad. Yes.
But that moving out of that Frisco location took a little bit of energy out of us. So tell us a little bit about StarCon.
Okay, so StarCon, okay, I went to my first tarot conferences. In fact, we were talking about this off air. I went to my first tarot conferences in the 1990s in Albany, New York. The American Tarot Association had regional conferences, and my first tarot conference ever going to, I was asked to present, and this was like the early days of any tarot conferences, before Reader Studio, before Bats, before Newts, before any of it. And I can tell you that the thing that I felt like when I arrived, and in the first session I went to, sitting in a room with, like, looking around the room at all of these other people who are tarot people. Maybe they're students, maybe they're readers, maybe they're deck artists, maybe they're authors, but tarot people. You know, we didn't have like social media back then. We barely had email. And we certainly didn't have smartphones. We didn't have any of that. We each sort of existed in a vacuum. The social media equivalent then was the Tarot L list on Yahoo, which I had never heard of. So this was my first time in a room with other readers that I hadn't trained. Every other reader I knew up till this point, pretty much, I had trained. So here I am with these strangers who are not strangers. They are people like me for the first time in my life. You know, I'm in my early 30s at this point. And the feeling of that, like, I'm so used to being the weird one. And okay, I'm still the weird one. I get that. No, seriously, though. I mean, you know this. When you grow up with that stuff going on, whatever that is, you see spirits, you talk to angels, you see auras, whatever that is. When you grow up with that, you're always not going to be like the other children. And so that was like my first time feeling like I was like the other children, and that the other children were fabulous.
Right.
So there's that.
No, it's very important. People use that phrase, like-minded. There's some bit of like-minded, and then with tarot, but then there's also learning all the different minded ways of looking at things.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, so tarot conferences, right? And I met you for the first time at Newts when Jenna Matlin and I presented there,
Right.
Which was great. So happy to meet you. Of course, I knew who you were, you know, but I was happy to meet you in person. Well, come on, you know, most of us know who you are. I had wanted to create that wonderful feeling that I had at that first conference, and that I had subsequently at other conferences. I wanted to create that for others. And, you know, Ciro Marchetti is a troublemaker. You know that, right?
Did you see that picture I posted of him and Roger?
I
That little reader?
did.
I'm like, I get
I
one of
did.
those at every single convention. There's one of those two kicking back with their feet up on the furniture. I'm like, what trouble are they up to now? So yes, I do know.
He is a troublemaker. And you know who else is a troublemaker? Court Kramer, who is Lisa Hunt's husband. They're also local in Florida. And a few other of our local sort of Florida people, Mitchell Osborne, Mary Ellen Collins. They had all each sort of individually reached out to me and had said, we need a Florida conference, and you are the one to do it. They'd each done that. Ciro, of course, being the biggest troublemaker and the loudest voice and the best joke teller, you know.
I'm not sure about that, but okay.
How about the most willing joke teller?
That's
Yes,
that.
exactly.
I'll take that one.
How about that? Yeah. So this was in my ears. You know, I was thinking about it. But man, it's a lot of work, and I don't love to sign up for a lot of work. And I have a lot of work, you know. I have a full-time gig, a more than full-time gig as a tarot reader. But then I went to Newts, and I was like, man, this is really cool. It would be nice to have, you know, not a copy of this, but something like it in Florida.
Right.
And I came home and I talked to my husband and business partner, IT John. Isn't it cool to have your spouse as your business partner?
Some days.
Yeah, occasionally.
Fair.
Occasionally.
So I talked to him about it. He's like, okay. So we plan a conference. The name StarCon was something that was brainstormed. Of course, Ciro suggested it should be Florida Area Readers of Tarot.
Oh, I get it.
Right?
That acronym.
We did not think that was a good idea. So we had a name, and it was going to be a conference, 3 rooms, presenters, vendors, exactly what you'd expect, lots of fun, all of that. And when I pulled a card, should I do this? You know what card came up? The Tower. And it was planned, of course, for January of 2021. We were still in full COVID at that point.
Yeah.
And so a lot of conferences canceled that year. They just canceled.
Right.
Newts got in right under, like they were in March, and then everything shut down. And I'm like, we don't know where we're going to be. I'm not going to invite people to fly here. That's not happening. But I just couldn't see canceling. I'd already sold tickets, for gosh sakes. So I have IT John, and we found Excel Events, which is this amazing conferencing platform. So StarCon, the first StarCon was supposed to be just in a hotel. It was just on Excel Events, and it was great. The second one, of course, y'all were so good. It was right during the Omicron outbreak.
Oh, yeah.
And like everyone was like, oh yeah, we'll be there in person. We'll be there in person 2 weeks before. Like no one was coming. I was so grateful that you were there. You
We
came,
wanted to be
Maria
there.
Luisa
Yep.
Salazar came. I mean, a few people showed up and we had a good conference, but it was hard because like more than half of them came in online.
Right.
And we didn't have the technology right. Last year, we brought the technology in-house. We had hired videographers, right? Because you got to be hybrid now, right? We started online. What are we going to do? We're hybrid. So apparently we're now the world's first and only multi-track, fully hybrid divination conference. And that's where we're at, and that's what we're doing. And people can come in person or online, and it's cool. And there it is.
Yes, and that's a great thing. And you knew it happened. You did it and capitalized on that, for lack of a better word, at the exact right time when people. And I do remember that. Just as a side note, that all of a sudden you had speaker after speaker, but it turned out that the people on Zoom or it's Sullivan's, excuse me,
On Excel Events, right?
At Sullivan's had such a wonderful time. And doing that, and those of us that were able to be there had a wonderful time too. So it's a great event. And what is the date of StarCon? I know it's soon.
Sure. It's coming up, man. StarCon 2024 is January 19th through the 21st. We meet in person in West Palm Beach, Florida, and you'll be there with us. We're so excited. We also, here's the other thing that's happening this year. For the past years, we've had what we call the Afterglow, which is 30 days after the conference on Excel Events, where we can watch recordings of the presentations and also have special events in the lounges. This year, we were offered the option to extend it to a full 365 days. So this is like a game changer because like StarCon is a whole thing, it's a whole year. We come together for 3 days. We create all of these recordings and spend time together. And then we have a whole year. We're going to do watch parties for the recordings. We're going to, of course, have presentations in the lounges all year long. So, and then how's that going to be as we plan 2025? Because we're kind of going to be together all the way through. Right. So I'm not even sure what that vibe is or what that's like, but I'm excited to figure it out.
Right. And we're excited to be there. We had a wonderful time last year and met a lot of very nice people. And that was my experience too, Christiana. When I went to Reader Studio, was the first, I'd say, conference. There were things here in Dallas, but nothing like StarCon, Reader Studio, Newts, or Bats, or all the things that people have had in the past. And I tell people, it sounds kind of corny, but it said literally it changed my life. It opened me up to the fact that there are so many, I like excellence, and so many professionals that are wanting to learn. And so that's why I do highly recommend everyone get your tickets to StarCon. If you can't go in person, you can get them And we'll tell y'all at the end where to get them, but online, and Christiana, I'll tell you where to find her. But it's very important. And it ties in too, because I met people also who absolutely did not want to be a full-time reader. They didn't want to be a professional reader. So give us some tips, if you would, because you've been in the business so long. What would be maybe your top 3, 5 tips to someone that's looking for a reader to know that they're getting someone professional, since we don't have an overall big governing board that kind of recommends people? It's a very wide open field. What would be some tips you would give the people who are just wanting to get a reading? They're not wanting to be, from a different angle, the professional reader.
So I'm so sorry to say this, but the first thing I would have to say is not what you look for, but what you avoid.
I
I'm
agree with
so
that.
sorry to say this, but honestly, for every one of us, for every Michelle, for every Roger, for every me, there are 10 or 20 intentionally fraudulent readers out there. They are most often part of crime rings. They are active very much in Texas, in Florida, in New York. And these are the people who are going to tell you, they're psychic. They're going to give you a good reading. And then you know what they're going to tell you, right? There's a dark cloud over you. And they're psychic enough to know what your pain points are and how much money they can ask you for. So, I bet you do this too. We clean up the messes of these people, right? I had one person come to me. She had spent $10,000 so her son, who had died of a drug overdose, would not be doing drugs in heaven.
Oh, my goodness.
This is an otherwise intelligent individual who was, imagine though, you're in grief. You've lost your child. Right. You go to a reader, they give you a reading, you hear truth from them, you're going to believe whatever else comes out of their mouth. So the first thing is you've got to avoid them. If you find yourself in front of someone who says, there's a curse on you, we've got to remove it. This bad thing is going to happen. Or, you've got a family curse, any of that, and you have to give a lot of money or jewelry, walk away. Oh, I had one. A Rolex was required because we needed the prism of the Rolex to send the devil back to hell, right? Okay. Otherwise, intelligent people believe this.
Could I give the fake Rolex? Because that, would they know there was the fake one? What does it do? It ticks
50
instead of skipping.
Yeah.
I'll give the fake Rolex.
$50
I've never
one.
owned a Rolex.
So typically, these people will have neon signs. And so basically, like if you just avoid readers with neon signs, you'll likely do just fine. But if you find yourself in front of one of them, run the other way. So that's one.
Okay.
Number 2, ask around. Like, it still feels in a lot of places that, there's a stigma about seeing a reader, right? So people are quiet about it, whether it's a religious stigma or just a sense of like a superstitious stigma. But the fact is, most people see readers. It's a fact.
It is a fact. Yes.
And so just ask around. Ask the people you know, do you know a good reader? And word of mouth will do it.
Right.
The other is check out the social media presence. And here's the other thing when we talk about fraud. No legitimate reader is going to slide into your DMs to offer you a reading. They may have a face that looks like mine. They may have a face that looks like Michelle's. It's not us. Right?
Yes. It's gotten ridiculous, right?
It has.
Yes.
It absolutely has. But if you look at people's social media presence, you can see if you like their vibe. We all have a different vibe, so you can check it out that way as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
As far as the looking for someone, especially, here's what I would say. Formulate my question better. How do you handle, there are certain cultures that, this is where it gets a little sticky, and I try to explain to some people that, your culture may be that you do believe that there might be a curse put on you. So,
Yes. I know where you're going. Yes, I've got
go ahead
this.
and jump in. Yeah.
And this is super important. And thank you for bringing it up, because I have evolved so much on this. When, my mayonnaise colored self, when I first came into this in a very mayonnaise colored town, I was just like, yeah, no, wrong, bad, don't do it. It was not until fairly recently, because of social media, that I recognized that a good root worker is a good thing. A good conjure person is a good thing. And so now I will refer, if someone wants that, I know who to refer to. Madame Pamita does a fabulous job. I love her. So I used to be like, no magic for hire ever. Now I'm like, yeah, if it's in your culture, find the person who will do it and will really do the work and will charge you an appropriate amount of money. And here it is, without scaring you into it.
Exactly.
That's the distinction. If they're scaring you into it, it's fraud. If it's an option, okay.
Exactly. I thank you for that. I totally agree. And I have those stories too. And the interesting thing is it's the same as you said, this otherwise very intelligent people, friends of mine, but they're in a desperate situation. Maybe they're great at their jobs, a doctor, it doesn't matter, but one, without giving it away, was a doctor. And they have something maybe going on with divorce or something like that, and then people capitalize on that, and they'll go, okay, and I'll tell you one local here, it was a church. It was a church, and someone got healings, and the church, they weren't asking for tithes, they ended up asking for tens of thousands of dollars. And so those are where we're getting into a lot of areas of fraud. And most people can kind of sniff that out. But the problem is, like you said, is they play on everyone's emotions so much.
And if you're psychic, you know exactly what someone's weak point is going to be. You know exactly how to get to them.
Right. So those are the things to avoid. And you ask around, there's so many different good readers for different types of people. Everybody wants something a little bit different. Is there anything that you would think would be a common, besides the avoid, just see, the common, well, I think they need to have long hair, like us.
I love that. That's hilarious.
What about that?
IT John would totally agree with that, right? My husband John, he's got longer hair than I do, has for the entire time we've been together.
He's got beautiful hair.
And he totally believes that there is power in long hair. He absolutely believes this.
He must have read about, what is it, Samson in the
Right, Samson and Delilah, right?
You don't cut that hair off. Yeah, so I think besides the long hair recommendation, they have to have hair at least the length of even if it's hair extensions, wink, wink, for me. Right? What else, Roger? What do you think they have to have? I'm being serious, though.
I think, I think you want to find somebody that has that, has been around for a while. I mean, you don't want to just see somebody that popped on TikTok yesterday. And it's like, hey, I'm a professional reader. I mean, I think you want to find somebody that has been around for a while and that is actually stable. I used to tell people, you always want to kind of make sure they have a place they do readings, not just at the coffee shop. But then, there's a few times I could see that happening with some long-term readers. But, they should have some stability to them, really. No, really they should. They should have some stability to their life. Like they've been there for X amount of years. They have, kind of a set of rules almost into place.
Some ethics, right?
Yeah, some ethics there.
Right.
I think that makes sense because of accountability, like, okay, and I'm sure you have the same experience. When you're in it for a while, you read for generations, right? So like you read for the kids whose parents marriage you predicted, and you predicted the birth of those kids. And then when they're grandparents, you read for their grandparents, but now their grandparents have passed on. So now you do mediumship for them. So you're still reading for their grandparents, but now the grandparents are on the other side. It's accountability. You know, you've been reading for these same people all this time, and it's a known thing. And so people know that you have the ethics that you have, whatever those ethics are.
Right.
People know you got them.
And that staying power, again, I believe that you're not the only one. A friend of mine that's here, he's been in the business. He does more energy work, but he he's a great guy. He's hilarious.
He's
and
crazy.
But he's really good at what he does.
He's
and
loco.
He will say, they're like, it's like Chiro and Roger, this person I'm talking about. But he has always said the thing about the staying power that you brought up earlier, because people will hop on, they see something that's, especially now, and I'm not cutting down social media platforms or someone who's a reader on those, because I've met good readers. But again, just because you may be a little bit psychic, I don't need to judge that. It goes back to, do you have that life experience of reading? And the way you get that is these conferences, or getting coaching from people like Christiana or whomever happens to be coaching at the time, and going and actually seeing looking at what you would want your practice to be, or I say sort of the same ethics you'd use to look at anyone in any business. There are pretty shady people in every type of business. And I think that everyone, when you go to a dentist, you're going to do your due diligence. You're going to ask around, just like you said earlier. So I think that's really, really important. I do think that people can, I like how you said they may be very psychic and be able to pick up on what you need, your Achilles heel, that thing that they can get you with, but that doesn't make them excellent readers just because someone has some bit of psychic ability. That experience is so huge for me, right? Yeah.
That is so important. I so agree with that. And I would add, like, the readers who, in it for the money, okay? Anyone who is being a reader and in it for the money is either stupid or fraudulent. There are so many easier, better ways to make money. I'm sorry. We can make a good living, yes, but we work hard.
Yeah, we do.
You have to, so the reader that you want to see or the reader you want to be, either way, you want that reader to love the work, I mean, I joke about it, in that, do I do readings 7 days a week? Heck yeah, I do. I took Christmas off.
How dare you? You actually took a vacation?
Well, a day. A day.
That's like
I have grandchildren now. I had to. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have. But my joke is, I would do this if people didn't pay me. Because what else would I be doing? This is what I'm here to do. This is the thing I would rather do rather than any other thing on the planet. I want to read your cards. Now, part of it is I love tea. I love gossip. I am super curious. And it's not just gossip. It's that place where gossip and compassion come together. I want to know. I am deeply curious about how you are really and what's going on with your kids and what happened yesterday. I am deeply, deeply curious. And I can keep a secret. So I don't love to gossip. Your secrets are safe with me. So I think there's some personality stuff that is also, it doesn't have to be those things, but I think there are some personality things that make a good reader. But at the end of the day, you've got to love it.
I totally agree. And Roger's always saying, I'll be like, I just don't know. I'm not in my joy right now. And I am, just like you, writing books, doing conferences. And Roger's like, where you're happy, right? And my closest friends who aren't even in the business will say, Michelle, where your happiness is and your joy. It's reading. Because a lot of us will go, I have these things. I whether it's strong intuition or you've learned the system of tarot and or all of it together, then you go, what do I do with it? And you have a burning desire to do it, whether you were taking money or not. I'm the same way. I'm going to, that's my sweet spot. That's where I find my joy, right? And Roger's always been so right about that. He says, it's so easy, Michelle, for you to jump back into your joy if you step away from the other stuff and you actually take appointments. So I totally agree with you on that. I totally do. I think that we are getting to wrap kind of the whole, how do you find someone good. First of all, I wanted to say that would be a good title of a book that you said earlier. It was.
Oh,
What kind of reader?
The reader you see, and the reader you want to see, and the reader you want to be.
There you go. That's the third book.
That's a good one.
We can write that one together.
We should collaborate. There you go.
Yeah. All right. You don't want to write with me. You'd be like, Michelle, the deadline. Because mine turned into War and Peace. I mean, this third one is like, Matt, I'm still working on it. No, they actually approved the second draft. But so, Matt, you want to chime in and then we'll do a giveaway? Do you have any thoughts about, as someone who goes to readers or been around readers? I won't say you go to readers, but you've been around us. So.
Oh, I mean, I think the only thing that really, I've never tried to look somebody up. I think it's always just been who do I trust and who do they recommend? I think that's probably the biggest thing that I have found is folks who are in this space know who's good and know who to avoid. And so the easiest thing would be, reach out to somebody like that and say, you may live in a different area, or maybe I met you at a conference, but again, you don't live in my area, but who do you know around and who would you go to? And that kind of thing I think would be the easiest thing to do.
Right, and I love referring people because I might not be the read in the way that maybe somebody else would want, or I'll know that I'm not going to be maybe the best fit for them. So I am very quick to recommend people to go to other readers. And I also want to say that I think we both, Christiana, you are too, very quick to support others in the field. This is something very important to me because I want to support the people that are elevating our profession. Did you have something else, Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the other most important thing, at least is for somebody who is looking for someone, is to know what speaks to you in terms of what modality speaks to you. I mean, there may be somebody who is a great reader, but they do something or they use something that I'm not into or whatever. And I'm not even going to say whatever that would be, but there's a million different ways to do this, and there are a million different things that people can use. And I think if you are going to someone who may be a great reader, but I don't know, maybe don't even really believe in what they're using, you're not going to get anything out of that. So know what works for you, and if you like cards, or if you like something else, or if you like healings or whatever, know that going in, or at least try to figure that part out.
That's a really good point. Because,
wow, so I would totally disagree with that.
Well,
Totally, with great respect, I would totally disagree with that. In my mind, it's all the person and not the tool. If I hire a carpenter, I do not care what kind of hammer they use. I care about their results.
But do you think that you have to educate people on that? Because Matt let's just use Matt as somebody who,
sure.
I've known Matt for a while. When I met Matt, I'm not going to say whether he got readings or not, but let's say somebody who is maybe not as involved in everything, they might have that preference.
Well, this is why people who aren't good at it shouldn't do it. Like, let's talk about tarot, okay? Because that's my thing. I know a lot of people who will say, I do not want a tarot reading. And that's because when they went for a tarot reading, the tarot reader said, your first card is the 10 of Wands. This means you are overburdened. Your second card is Death. That means there are changes coming. That's not a freaking reading.
That's let's tell you what the cards mean. Teaching.
Right, that's right. You can get that out of a freaking book.
Yeah.
And, so a good reader is going to look at the cards, look at your chart, look at your hands, look at a candle, look at a crystal ball, whatever, and tell you what you need to know.
Yeah, so without going too far afield on that, I'd say I actually agree with you both. I think you're saying the same thing in different ways because there are, especially in Texas, some people who might just not want a certain type of thing. And once they get a reading, then all of a sudden they don't care. But it's mainly maybe more education about the different tools and modalities that we use.
Yeah, and I think I was probably mostly speaking from if you've never done this stuff before. I mean, if we're really asking how do you find a reader, if you've never done this stuff before, there are going to be certain things that I think just turn people off, or whether they think it's too woo or whatever. There are going to be certain things where they're just like, I'm not going to accept whatever it is you're telling me, even if you're a great reader. So I think that's why, especially if you're asking around, just kind of know what they're looking for, and then I think as you get into this stuff more and more, you start to open your mind up to other different things, and so it's not.
You need to be comfortable with them. You
Yeah.
need to make sure
Right,
if
that's
there's
fair.
red flags going off, it's not the carnival. Pay attention and
Yeah.
go away. Don't, kind of trust your instincts a little bit, your own instincts.
It's true too. This is a joke, sort of, but I always say essential oils are now the gateway drug.
You are so right in so many ways. And it's really too bad because essential oils have really great value.
Oh, of course they do. Yes.
But when they get tied in with multi-level marketing,
Don't get me going.
bad things happen.
All the time.
We actually, when I was still at my firm, we represented one of the two very well-known ones. And so when we opened our store, I said,
Nope.
no multi-level marketing in our store. That's a whole nother topic. But how about do you want to give away a
All right, so
prize tonight?
yes, and how we're doing a little different, guys, than how we've done it in the past because we are changing things around. How's that?
Shake it up.
Shaking it up. All right, so actually, because we want to give everybody a chance to win, so my iPad died, so I grabbed Michelle's phone. I've got the question typed out on her phone. I'm going to hit submit in just a minute. So even if you're watching the replay, go to that question, answer the question, and on Friday, we will be picking the winner randomly from there. So see how it works?
Yeah.
So one thing was, we were talking about conferences and everything, and I was like, okay, what question are we going? Christiana said she was excited to meet Michelle, and she was at a conference. Let us know what that conference was, and you win.
Wow.
All right, I'm posting it now, so there it's posted. So you got to get on there and answer underneath there. You have till Friday, and we'll actually pull. And you grabbed a whole handful. Which one are you giving away?
You can choose. You want to tell them about these new limited edition?
All right, so we designed it because we know everybody knows we're kind of known for our bracelets and everything. We've designed them and we've made them for years now, for 15-ish. So we actually we made some kind of some exotic crystals. Exotic crystals. See how it works. But
Exotic
but they're different.
Those are
this is actually
$10,000. Wink,
yeah.
wink.
So
They're
like this one
exotic.
this is actually ruby jade. We have ruby jade, which is pretty cool. We have the shamanic quartz. This one
I have
is.
to ask, what makes a quartz shamanic?
You want me to answer
Yeah.
it? I think it's more of a common name. It's the stuff that's inside of the quartz. I have that question too because, and I defer a lot to Nicholas Pearson. It became known as that, but it has a different. Is it chromium in there? I always say
Chlorite.
Yeah.
Chlorite.
And so I have that question too because I think a lot of different stones could be shamanic quartz. I don't really love that common.
Yeah, but now I
name.
want it.
But that common name, what we have written on that one, Christiana, is I write these, enhances meditations, visions, and astral travel, helps you connect with spirit beings and past lives. It's also eases fears and past traumas, of course, along with any other of your professional that you need in your life to help you. So, but great question. And it is a common name, not a mineral, quote unquote, geologist name.
Kind of like this one. This is merlinite, and the actual real name is actually indigo gabbro jasper.
And merlinite's trademarked.
And that's a trademark
So,
name.
yeah. So that's
Cool.
very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a higher. Now I love this blue kyanite.
Yeah, we
That's
have blue kyanite.
really good quality of blue kyanite bead.
I'm wearing green kyanite right now.
Yeah,
I love-
beautiful.
Yeah. And so then there's labradorite. This is actually a little higher grade labradorite.
That's
with
mine
the blue
right there.
flash. Yep.
Right there. That labradorite. That is fabulous.
Morganite.
Morganite's really nice, named after J.P. Morgan.
Yep. And green rutilated quartz are both
Yeah.
those terminated quartz. So those are both terminated and green quartz.
So there's a bunch of different kinds
Yeah.
of quartz that have different names based on how they're formed, the minerals that are in them. But we decided to do these specialty bracelets. We also have some that we're bringing to StarCon because Maria got a hold of us and she's like, I want 2 of those
I don't have mine on
at
tonight.
F-bomb off.
Did you see 'em?
They're sandalwood.
They're
and
sandalwood, and they say, well, it says the full thing, but it says F off.
And so she inboxed me and I said, I'll bring them to StarCon because I just made them and I was just sitting around just having fun and I said, oh, we've got these letters here. Let me make this. So say once again how they
All right,
went.
so here's how you win. You have to be on the Facebook page under this post and go down. You'll see, and it's actually posted from Michelle's account, not mine, but Michelle's account, and it says question of the week. Okay, and the question is, Christiana and Michelle were at a conference and they met. What is the name of that conference?
Okay.
And you just have to list it under the question.
So a
Reply
separate
there.
post from this video.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen people commenting on the video, but it's a separate post.
So
No, they can do it there. It's
they
fine.
can do it.
That's
but
fine.
It,
That's
it
fine.
will be randomly
We'll
generated.
randomly pick it though from there.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes, from there.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay, and
from there.
also, I wanted to make sure that we did say the dates of StarCon, but before we get off, do we even have time to do 1, 2, 3 readings? Or are we not going to do those tonight? I didn't ask Christiana if she was willing to do that.
I'll do whatever you want me to do.
I mean, sure, yeah.
We're going to do it really fast, Christiana, because we've got like a minute. So we're going to each, pardon me?
Put your card there when you're reading.
Okay, I will. We have
Forgot
a
to tell
little
her.
X marks the spot.
I forgot to tell her.
Yeah, there's the X. I was wondering if that's like Stage Center or something.
Yes.
So we're going to do a 1 card pull. Everyone pull. Matt, will you explain it, how we do it? Because you're so much better at explaining it.
Matt,
Sure.
Matt, do you remember how?
I think I remember how. Yes. So everyone listening right now, everyone watching right now, pick 1, 2, or 3. This will be your reading for the week. And each of our readers will be assigned 1, 2, or 3, and they will pull 1 card and give you a message for the week. So if you are listening or watching right now, have 1, 2, or 3 in your head, and then I will let y'all decide who you want to go.
And even later, you can choose 1, 2, or 3, right? Thank you, Matt, for doing that.
You're welcome.
We're going to go with Roger first.
Okay.
Yeah, you're up for the number ones. You're number one,
slots.
baby.
Of course I am. Uh-oh. All right, so we have the Queen of Wands here. Actually, what jumps out is the color of her dress a little bit because it's that vibrant, color in there. But it's that sunflower that she's actually holding there. So, number one's out there for the week. Kind of keep this week in mind of actually take advantage and stand out to everybody. And also look up the meaning about sunflowers because sunflowers are actually one of those. The shape of a sunflower, or the seeds and everything, is actually the most pure shape you can get there.
Fibonacci,
Yeah.
all that math
It's
stuff.
the shape. Yeah.
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 All that math
And
stuff.
keep that with you. Yeah.
I try to
that
make people
math
think I'm
stuff.
really smart, don't I? All that math stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, when I went to law school and they said the fraction above the land of oil and gas and the fraction below the land and what you own, I raised my hand and said, I thought we didn't have to do math in law school. And that got me a really good reputation. I'm not kidding. I really did say that.
No, we're not
I
surprised.
came here because I thought I didn't have to do any math. Why am I having to do
Wait,
fractions?
why were you in math?
Okay, so Christiana, will you read for the number 2s because I picked number 2 and I
number
want you to read for
if
me.
you chose number 2, we have the 5 of Pentacles. You may this week be feeling left out, not good enough, not recognized, not noticed, or not having what you need. That's not a great feeling. Wherever that's showing up for you, it is time to remedy that. It is time to look for the opportunity. It is time to change the internal narrative and recognize that you can be what you want to be and that you can have what you want and need to have.
Love it. And then I will wrap it up with product placement like that.
That's it.
Stardust Wanderer with Jen Sankey. She will be speaking at StarCon. This is a new deck. It's beautiful on the front to show everyone. And they're really pretty cards. So let's see what we get. And they're not very broken in for me to shuffle, but I've been kind of cutting and shuffling over here. All right, so for the number 3s, what do we have? We have the King of Coins. Is that there? Okay. And then she has the symbol associated with it. For the King of Coins, without being able to really see it now, what I got immediately is for this week, there's mastery. But I believe at every level there is mastery. There's a mastery of a page. There's a mastery of a knight. There's mastery of a queen. In courts, we know queens, kind of ran those kings, right? It's supposed to be a joke, but there's mastery. What I'm getting this week, a lot of people have been coming in concerned about their finances. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but what I am getting is to really seek potentially some counsel if you need it regarding your finances, number 3s. Don't stick your head in the sand. Things will turn around eventually, but if you are struggling and you're not knowing, I literally got seek counsel potentially of someone a little wiser than you regarding the finance, or someone that you really, really trust about how would I do this and how should I budget on this to get through. Not this just week, but going into more. And I don't believe that we're talking about a banker. I believe this is someone in general for the number 3s it's a trusted confidant who knows how to handle the coins, the pentacles, the physical and material things of this world. So that's what I get for everyone, because that way there's no shame in asking others, just like getting readings. A lot of times we may be doing it just for validation, and we really deep down know, I need to cut back on my spending for now, but to just ask for help. So that's what I'm getting for the number 3s with the King of Coins, according to coins or pentacles, correct? So that's what I got for that. As far as StarCon, let's go back to that and where we can find the information to get our tickets. And and anything you want to tell us about StarCon as far as where to go?
Certainly. Ticket prices range from $10 to $500. You can find a ticket in your budget, I promise. Join us in person or online, 1 day, 2 days, all 3 days. Starcon.com. The thing to remember is there's 2 A's, STAARCON.com. All the information you need is right there.
And it is not FART.
That's right.
Churro, Mr. Churro, Mr. Grandfather Churro. Just had a grandbaby with Sasha. His daughter Sasha had a baby. But thank you so much. So it's StarCon with 2 A's, and it is not too late to get your tickets, and it is not too late for sure, because it's hybrid. If you want to watch from a distance, to watch on at Sullivan's and get your tickets for that. Right, Roger?
Yeah, that'd be exciting. Yeah. Super exciting.
So we look forward to seeing you. Christiana, thank you so much for being our first guest with our time back. After us taking this break, we really appreciate having such a pro on as you to keep us on track. And Matt, thank you so much also. It's good to see you again.
It's good to be seen.
Yeah, it's good to be seen and heard, right? Yeah. So anything else, Roger?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I'm going to let you wrap up the show.
Christiana, thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you guys for joining in and watching us and being back with us again this week. Look forward to seeing y'all again next week. Again, we'll be here on SoulTopia Facebook page and SoulTopia on YouTube. All right, guys.
Let me say one thing. Sorry, I know.
You said wrap it up, and then you just
I
like,
ruined the
okay.
outro. I ruined it. Matt just made a face at me. I ruined the outro because I have promised the listeners that we will include you. We are going to be including you in your comments in the future. We're just working on that. So if you made comments tonight, And probably I stole Roger's charger for the iPad. That's probably why it went dead. I probably took it and used it. But do know that on future shows, we definitely, and if you have any questions that you want to put, and we can follow up later, and if there are any for Christiana, we could ask her to pop on if she wants to answer a few of those too, or if you want to book a session with her or anything like that. So I did want to say that. You want to do the outro again?
Oh, I already did it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being back. And thank you, Christiana. We look forward to seeing you at StarCon, and we'll see everyone else soon.